Okay, today we are going to look at investigation 1.4 from Let's Be Rational, and we're going to be talking about more strategies for adding and subtracting rational numbers, but more importantly, mixed numbers. So we're going to take a look at what we call the spice shot problem. And the spice shot problem is simply just various recipes made up from different amounts of spices. And we use spices when we cook or we make things to spice things up, make it taste a little different or sweeter or saltier or spicy for those people that like things a little on the spicy side. So here is the different amounts of spices. So we've got the recipe for spice parsimony, garam masala, and Betty's cake spices. So what we're going to do is we're going to look over here at number A1. We're going to take a look, and it says that Letitia buys spices to make one batch of spice parsimony. Use estimation to decide whether she buys more or less than 4 ounces of spices and explain our reasoning. So I'm going to go back here to our wonderful little picture, and we are making this recipe right here. Okay, and so we need to determine whether or not it's more or less than 4 ounces. Okay, so in order to determine whether or not it's more or less, it said to use estimation, which means I'm going to be rounding things and using some fraction benchmarks. So over here, 2/5. Let's take a look at 2/5. 2/5 is less than half, but it's kind of close to half because the decimal equivalent of 2/5 would be 0.4. So this would equal the same thing as 0.4. And so on our estimation over here for A1, we'll just make this our estimation side of the problem. Okay, we could change 2/5 is about half, or 0.5. Okay, so that's really kind of close to 0.5. And these little squiggly equal signs means approximately equal to. So they're not. It's not saying that 2/5 equals a half, but it says that 2/5 is almost or approximately equal to a half. So it's pretty close. So we've taken care of that one. All right, let's go over here and let's take a look at 1 1/5 ounces of ground nutmeg. So I know that 1 1/5 is going to equal 1.2. Well, if I'm using my rounding strategies, 1 1/5 is going to round down to 1. So I'm going to say that 1 1/5 is approximately equal to 1. Okay? Let's do the same thing with the ground ginger. Again, we have 1 1/5. Okay, and that would equal 1.2. So using my rounding strategies, I know that the 1 1/5 of ground ginger, whoops, I said 5, should be 1 1/5. 1 1/5 of ginger is about 1. Okay, and then I've got the ground cinnamon, or the ounces of cinnamon, and I have 1 1/10. Okay, so this is going to be equal to 1.1. All right. So 1 1/10 is very close to 1. It's even closer than 1/5. So that would be about 1. So this is rounding everything to our fraction benchmarks of either a half or a whole. Okay, so if I add that up, it's going to be 3.5 ounces. Okay, but I really need to look at this. I rounded things down. Okay, we have 1/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/10 here, and we rounded this up. So is he going to use more or less? He's probably going to use a little less. Okay, so we could say that he's going to use less than 4 ounces. Now, I want to double check my work to make sure that I am correct. So I'm going to go back to the black over here for a second, and we are simply going to add up these decimal numbers we came up with. Okay, so 0.4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 1, 2, 3. He's actually going to use 3.9 ounces. So he's very close, but it's still less than 4. So my estimation, even though it was technically an underestimation, is still correct because I came up with an answer that was less than 4. All right, so to answer A1, let's see if we did it. She buys spices, use estimation to decide whether she bought more or less than 4 ounces. Okay, so we answered that question. She's going to use less. Whoops, I love it when it does this. She's going to use less than 4 ounces. And our explanation is that we rounded things to our fraction benchmarks. So our explanation would be that we rounded to the nearest benchmark. Have to extend the page a little. Benchmark. Okay, so this is really kind of what we're doing today, or I guess tomorrow in class when you show up. What you need to do before coming to class tomorrow is you need to do A2, and A2 says to use estimation to decide which weighs more, one batch of Betty's cake spices or one batch of the garam masala, and then about how much does one weigh, and then you are to explain. So you're going to have to come back to this page for tomorrow, and you're going to have to compare the garam masala recipe and the Betty's cake spices and tell me which weighs more. Which weighs more, and how do we know? All right, see you in class.